we go. Janette was elected a member of the Royal Institute of British Architects prior to immigrating to the United States in 1962. She is a licensed California contractor and real estate broker. She honed her entrepreneurial skills by creating businesses that withstood volatile markets. She retired to Humboldt County to continue her love of hiking. In fact, as a matter of fact, she has been operating the senior walking program, now called the Wednesday Walkers, ever since CR lost its funding. And she has volunteered to keep that group active and has done so wonderfully. Despite when she broke her legs, then Bonnie Wesley and others have pitched in to walk her dog, Hop, and to keep the group active. And now she's well again and back on the road, back on the trailer. She served on the City of Arcata Design Review Commission and contributed to Transition Humboldt, which she did mightily and very generously. We appreciate her in our community. She's contributed a great deal. And here's Janette.
Well, thank you for having me. If it's a little noisy right now, this is the final stage of redoing the solar system because we had new roofs. So Ben Scurfield is here, but he told me he'd be done by noon. So it's pretty close. So I did not want to sort of read out everything that I was going to say. I did make notes, but I did decide that I will read the first little paragraph because, okay, so this is to tell you minorly about me. I'm an entrepreneurial, can-do, survivor type person. My tragic, lonely childhood and how I came to leave England the day after I graduated will have to wait for another time. But that, of course, had a huge influence in probably why I don't have a family. In later life, with the guidance of a brilliant psychotherapist, I've learned to accept depressive episodes. Just be. No, I will not be a vegetable for the rest of my life. Creative juices will return. Okay. So kindness, I believe, is the highest value for me. I try to listen. I try to listen with compassion, without interruption, and without judgment. Friends I have many different beliefs from me. I mean, I have friends who think, well, you know, that God will you know, make everything right. I don't believe in any life after death. Anyway, but all these different views that people have, that doesn't change how much I value their friendship as a human being. Okay. All right. So today I'm sharing choices that I've made, and if an idea resonates with you, just fine. You can take it. You know, you can ask me more, or you know. Okay. So here's the first thing. Oh, I know something else about me. This is very important when I think about what will I do with the money that was so hard come by. I've created more money for the economy than I've taken out. Businesses I started provided jobs. Retailers made profits on things that we fabricated. Buyers gained equity in the spec houses that I designed and built. I don't want to squander my nest egg, like traveling more. I've been to 30 countries because I traveled when I was younger. I always had that belief, don't put off a travel opportunity until you're too old, you know. So that did a lot of daring things in my life. I want to leave the money that I will not need. I want it to leave to future generations. And so what I've done is I've chosen a few people, based on my perception of their values, and also they are not spendthrifts. But of course, reason I say they're not spendthrifts, that's important, because probably, what, 40 years ago? 40 years. I mean, you're still in the sort of mid-range 40 years ago. Anyway, so I went to this attorney thinking that, you know, it's about time to make a will. And he looked at me across his big desk and he said, why would you bother? I think he said 80%. 80% of people squander money that they get as an inheritance within the first 2 years. Why would you bother to make a will? Oh, well, I don't. So anyway, we did write a will, and I had it for a long time and didn't really think much about it. Well, then when I was up here in Humboldt County, which is about now 13 years, I think. Hold on, I'm going to the next piece of paper. So what I did was, and this is pretty useful, I went online, and there's a company, it happens to be in San Francisco, but it's online. It's called NOLO, N-O-L-O, NOLO Press. And I think I paid $30 a year. I don't quite remember. But they have a form that you can fill out, you know, and it has prompts on it. You know, you write your name and all of that stuff. And then it'll say, you know, who do you want to leave, or what do you want to leave to? Well, the most amusing thing about it is when you get down to pets and you write down the name, you know, Hop, H-O-P, and you write down where, you know, who you want to have take care of Hop. And then after you've written that stuff down, then a prompt comes up. How much would you like to leave? How much money would you like to leave for the care and feeding of Hop? Well, I mean, usually you don't leave any money, do you? Anyway, so in the prompt below that was, I think there were choices, you know, 3,000, this was dollars, you know, 5,000, 10,000, this is for Hop. And so anyway, but you don't have to fill those in, but that, I just give you that as an example of how it does help to think about the things that you might have forgotten. So I did that, and I changed it quite a few times, and especially over a few years. I looked and I thought, I don't think I want to do that, or I want to do this. So anyway, okay, so then I went, well, I know. Okay, hold on a second. Let me see. I was going to write. Yeah. Okay. So then I went and decided that I need to have this, you know, written out by an attorney. And why don't I see? Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Okay. Thought I'd written this down. Well, maybe I didn't. So I know how to send this to you. Okay, so I went to an attorney in Eureka, and he was terrific. And what he read the printout that I made from NOLO Press, and he said, this isn't exactly how I would write it, but he said it's perfectly okay. Terrific. Okay. So then I also had a healthcare. This is the guys bringing down the ladder, in case you can't hear it. And that's Hop, making sure they know he's here. So then I had him look at my healthcare directive. And he said, would you like to look at the one that I've written for my clients? I said, sure. Well, you see, over, a span of the last 20 or more years, healthcare directives have changed a lot. His was fabulous. There was a whole lot more about staying at home, aging in place, all that stuff. People, how much care I wanted, all that kind of thing. So I said to him, oh, fantastic. I'll take it. All right. So that is how I got, a will that was current and a much, much more useful healthcare directive. Okay. So then, maybe a couple of years later, I thought, I really need to have this in some kind of vault. So I called him back up and I said, well, now, do you keep this in a vault so that, well, basically what he said was we keep one on file, but we don't keep a vault for clients. Ooh, okay. And since I do all my banking online, I don't think the local banks even keep vaults anymore for people I don't know. Anyway, but he said, there's an attorney in Arcata that will do that for you. Oh, great. Okay, so I trip over to him and nice guy, little younger. He said, yes, I can do that. Yes, I do that. So I showed him my paperwork and everything. Well, as you can well imagine what happened, he said, well, I think it would be best to make some changes to this. Oh, okay. He said, I think you would be better off having all your finances in a trust. Okay, well, what you going to do if an attorney says that? You go, oh, okay. So, he didn't change the basic intent of the documents. He just changed some of the format. They actually didn't look quite as simple. Anyway, so I paid, and so now he has them in his vault. And then I have his business card, his little business card. And what I have is right by the front door, I've got a little plastic bag with a pin, and his card is right there. And it says, Janette's Will and Healthcare Directive, with an arrow pointing down to the sky. And so that's how I did that, yeah. So is somebody asking something? I see a little red one chat here.
Oh, no, that started at the beginning, Janette. That was the message to everyone.
Okay. All right.
But who was it that provides this service? We do
I'm not willing to say that on, I don't think that's appropriate here. Oh, well, I mean, is it appropriate?
Of course.
Oh, okay. Well, the guy that I went to in Eureka was Poovey, Butch Poovey. Now, he did super for my friend who had a very complicated arrangement, and she had children and this and that and the other. And what he did for her was, you see, because one of the children would look after her estate, he actually made this big, nice book like this, and it had all these little different file sections in it. So that, you see, was meeting a need that was different from my need. And so I would recommend Butch, absolutely terrific. Okay, so the guy with the vault is up there. Oh God, and I've forgotten his name. Oh, that's the worst thing of getting old, is you can't remember the guy's name. Maybe I'll think of it. Oh, I
It's
could
on
look.
your door. It's on your door, Janette.
Well, I know, but I'll look him up on my, why don't, I know, but then I have to get up, you see. And
Yeah,
then,
we won't require you to do that. Don't worry about it.
oh, all right, okay. Well, if somebody asked you, I'll probably think of it. Um, anyway,
They still do have safe deposit boxes, so you can put your will and everything in a safe deposit box. It's simply the idea of posting where everything is on your door for somebody who comes in, or letting your friends or whoever you've delegated your
right,
given your power of attorney to, they should know, of course, as well.
right. Well, they do, yes.
Yeah.
But I believe the safe deposit box go with a bank account.
Yes.
Well,
Probably.
yeah, I do all my bank online. I don't fool with any of these local banks. They're way too inefficient. Um,
By the way, did he explain to you why a trust is preferable? That the reason is that you avoid probate and the costs and delay of probate, and therefore all those, it goes right ahead to whoever you designate.
you are so good at this that I totally forgot, and that's exactly what he explained to me. And
Yeah.
had you not mentioned it, I would have, it would have gone up in the horizon somewhere.
Well, we just went through all this ourselves last November.
Oh, okay. Yes.
A year ago, November, I guess.
Yeah. One of the little things that I did forget to mention was that at one point I thought, well, why don't I get one of those nice, they're not that big, like a suitcase that's a 2-hour safe, and I can just keep it in the safe, and I can have it in my little office up there. Well, it was a very nice piece of equipment. I bought it online from my darling Amazon, and Jeff Bezos, he and I are good friends. I'll meet him one day. So anyway, I had it up there for maybe a month or more. And then I looked at it and I thought, golly, if somebody was to break into my house, and I don't keep much money in the house. I don't know what they take. It's certainly not going to take these paintings, or that nice rug from Afghanistan. I thought, gosh, they just pick that up and take it. Well, so I had that thing rehomed in a heartbeat. See, I don't keep stuff. If it's not useful to me, I don't keep it, because there's somebody else that could really use it and benefit from it. Doesn't matter what I paid for it. So it's long gone. Anyway, that's just the backstory for that. But thank you, Jane. Good thing you're here. I was going, okay. One of the things, though, I had to do, okay, I was going to tell you an amusing story here. I wanted to change the person that I was leaving my house to. And, I don't have any debts. My house is paid for, my car is paid for, any money that comes up, for me is mine. I never did any delayed tax, any of those tax things where, you don't have to pay tax now and, 30 years from now you can pay. I never did any of that. In fact, 50 years ago, yeah, more than 50 years ago, this accountant down in LA, Harry Hyman, very nice guy, he said to me, Janette, do not count on Social Security for your retirement. It may not be there for you. Okay, 55 years ago. I always remembered that. Fortunately, it is, So I'm very glad because, anyway, I'm just telling you that. So anyway, I wanted to change the person to whom I was going to give my house, and I want them to have the house free and clear. You know, I'm not the kind of person who, you know, says, oh, I've got this money. Oh, hey, you know, let's go out and, you know, go off somewhere and spend it. I don't want to do that. It's much more fulfilling to me to think that some of this I'll be able to pass on. So you have to go down to the Hall of Records, you know, down there in Eureka, in that sort of building with the rectangular stuff on the front of it. Architecturally, you know, it's a weird, doesn't look like a city hall to me. Anyway, so I go up the 5 flights of stairs because they're at the very top. And I never take an elevator if there are stairs, ever. Okay, so I go up the 5 flights and she says, well, there's a form to fill out. Oh, great. Okay, fine. She gives me the form and then she says, well, you have to have it notarized. Oh, you can't do it here? No. Okay. So I go back down the 5 flights of stairs, me and Hop, and I walk across the street and there's the place right across the street called Scrapper's Edge. Okay. So I go in there and a very nice people, you know, they've got a, what do you call the people that sign off that stuff?
Notaries.
That person. So she signs that off and I walk back and, you know, wave to the guy at security at the Hall of Records there at City Hall. And I walk up the 5 flights of stairs again and I show her the piece of paper and she says, oh, it's, I think it was about $95 or something. Oh, great. Okay. Well, I'm a techie person, right? I put my debit card on the table. Oh, we don't take plastic. What? I mean, this is, you know, this is, no, this is 2000 and something. She said, no, we only take cash or checks. Oh, well, I didn't have $95 cash on me. I usually take maybe 20, but I don't. Okay, fine. So I had to walk down the stairs again and then get in my car, drive to Arcata, get my checkbook, drive back, say hello to the guy at security again, and walk up the, and you always have to give them, you have to tell them usually, hey, I'm not taking the elevator, I'm going to walk back up the stairs. I give her the $95 and she looks and she says, oh, this looks all fine. And in 2 weeks, I got the new piece of paper. So anyway, that's a story for you.
What was it you were recording, Janette?
Who was going to get my house when I died.
Oh, okay. So that was your title.
Yes, the change of title, whatever it's called, you know. It's an easy piece of paper. It's not difficult to fill out.
Did you actually change the title at the time or just did you put them, add them to the title, or how did you do it?
Title doesn't pass until I die.
Okay, that's in your will.
Right, and they don't have title to the house from this piece of paper, but I've forgotten how it works. I mean, I'm still paying the taxes.
Right.
So that indicates, you know, who owns the house. So anyway, as part of this new will that I wrote, or that I had written for me, there's an opportunity now, which I was really enthusiastic about. Oh, because the Poovy wouldn't let me write in my will about being buried. I wanted to have the cheapest possible way to get rid of my body. He didn't like that idea, so he wrote something, you know. Anyway, so when I went to this one in Arcata, by that time, see, there's this really useful stuff for people like me called green burial. And they just wrap you in a cloth, piece of, cheap fabric, and they make a little hole in the ground, but it's, it's got to be deep because you don't want the animals coming down and, getting at you. A deep hole, but it's only as big as you are. They plop you down in it, and then you can have a little tree put in the top, little tree, and there's no sign. You do it in the forest. There's no sign. There's no way anybody would know. It all gets filled back up, and the little tree will grow. It may not appeal to everybody, but I went, wow, what a great idea. Nobody even has.
Do you have to get permission to have it be put in the forest, or how does that work? Do you know?
A guy with a shovel goes out and does it.
Actually, I think there are quite a few rules regarding it.
Oh, there are. Oh,
and the world is a friend of ours who's
there's a rule for every fucking thing,
Yeah. She's spent years trying to get it set up so it can be done out at her house out towards Hydesville.
But if you wanted a little ceremony with it, yes, of course, you would want to, make sure you did it in a forest where, they were used to having people do that. And there are quite a lot of forests where people have actually done this, So
there are some places that have been designated.
So
as legal.
So listen to Jane. You see,
How do you find that out? Where it's designated?
I'll be dead, so I won't give a shit.
Barbara, do you know the answer to
that? But the young guy that I have designated, I did, with the shovel, I know he's capable of digging a really deep hole.
Yeah, but he may be 10 years older and not competent anymore when you finally leave us.
He's young. Yeah, he's got a good 30 years with a shovel at least. I don't keep any copy of my will on my computer. I do have a copy at home, but I keep it, in a little packet, not very obvious. But I don't keep, that's the only thing I don't keep on my computer. It just didn't feel like, I just didn't want to do that. Okay, I wrote a thing down about donating stuff. Over probably the last at least about 10 years, things that I weren't really using but were sort of valuable to somebody else, I've been donating them, what I call placing them. I sent my camera back to a friend in South Dakota because nice camera, high-tech camera, didn't weigh much because I got an iPhone, you see. And somehow just taking the iPhone out of my pocket, it makes nice enough pictures. And then of course, I have a big computer upstairs and I manipulate the photos. So that's basically that. The things that are of value, the artwork that's of value, what I actually did was I donated all the contents of my house to hospice of Humboldt, because I volunteer at the hospice shop and I really enjoy doing that, selling stuff to people, one of my favorite. It's much more fun to sell something than it is to buy something. Anyway, but then I found out that what they do, first, wait a minute, let's go back a little bit. I took a few people, 2 or 3 people, and said that they could each take 3 pieces, any 3 things from my house that they wanted. You know, one of them could take all my TV stuff. I got a pretty nice TV. Or some, you know, they could take my big computer with all that wonderful stuff or whatever, you know. And then the rest of it would go to hospice, for the hospice shop. Well, then I found out that if something is valuable, they don't do any online sales, or they don't ship anything, you know, they'll deliver it. So I thought, some of the things I have are actually valuable. You see that that war rug from Afghanistan from 2000, it made in Afghanistan, and it explained, they were made by the people there to be sent to Western countries to tell them about when the Russians were leaving. It's a very sad story. You can see the guns, you can see all of that. And it says at the bottom, made in Afghanistan, and 2000 on it. Well, they're selling, rugs like that are selling for at least $2,000, you know? So what am I gonna do? See that at the, well, I'll look down from heaven. I don't believe in heaven. Anyway, I don't want that to go to the hospice shop and have a tag on it for $50, you know? And I have a painting from England that I had shipped over that I actually saw the same artist with the same, it's from turn of the 18th century, 19th century. I saw the same sailboats and everything, $5,000 estimated value. And the guy said, well, you know, better insure it for 10. Oh, and the hospice shop's going to probably put $150 on it. So what I did was I called a friend who, you know, has pretty valuable collection and stuff. Well, then I haven't done this. This is the last thing. I haven't done this yet. But what I decided to do was you can actually get free estimates of value from Sotheby's, and there's another place down in San Francisco. So what I'll do is I photographed all this stuff anyway, and I photographed where the signatures are, and I will ask them for an estimate. And then you see, I can make that on a little piece of paper, and then all that somebody would have to do is drive that stuff down there. They would sell it. There's a 25% commission, which is frankly rather reasonable for somebody handling all that stuff. And then for just driving it one way, they'd accumulate a whole bunch of money. So I think that'll work. Okay, so now I was going to talk a little bit about medical alert. Okay, this is, okay. I wear this around my neck. I never take it off. Okay, medical alert. And on the back, okay, says my name. It says their 1-800 number. California, do not resuscitate, EMS. And then the bottom is my name, my number. It's not got my name, it's got my number. And I pay, I think every 3 years, but I pay annually. You know, it's an annual charge for that. But they have all my records there. So if some guy comes in and wants to resuscitate me, you know, he can call, hopefully, would call, and they would explain what would you say, the various stages of when it would be appropriate to resuscitate me and when it wouldn't. And you just have to hope. This is it's the best you can do, okay? And then, of course, on Darling Hop, my little poodle over there. He has a home again chip. You know, he has a chip. The vet puts the chip in, and then you can go at any place. Police departments have the readers. They just run the reader over, and they can bring up all the information about the dog. So if the dog is lost, I assume everybody has that on their dogs. Home again. All right. All right. So I am pretty computer savvy. I'm not as savvy as I would like to be, but usefully enough. And so, you know, I just encourage people to do that. Okay, so I wrote down here, keeping fit is top priority on my list. And some years ago, I actually read there's a little phrase for this. I didn't realize I've been practicing this for, you know, quite some years, quite some decades. It's called compression of morbidity. Oh, that's an ugly sounding thing, isn't it? Well, anyway, the idea of that, which of course I didn't realize I was actually doing, is that you would be as fit as you can for the longest period of your, you know, life as you age, so that you have the shortest amount of time before you die, when you know, are just a basket case, right? So that's the idea. And so the more fit you can keep, the shorter that time when you're really, you know, beginning to lose it. Anyway, it's called compression of morbidity. But I am blessed with good health, and I honor that with regular exercise, and I have very narrow food choices. You know, I had a trainer at the gym, and I saw her once a week for an hour, a short hour, and then I went 2 times on my own. Now with the COVID-19, of course, the gym got closed. It's open, it's just opened up again, health sport, but you know, they're open now, I think Monday through Friday. But I asked a couple of people whose opinion I really value, and they went, and I thought, okay, no, I'm going to wait. So I just, you know, 2 people, I won't tell you because one of them's here on the screen. So I didn't have to, you know, well, in England we would call, I didn't have to mind fuck it, you know. I went where I thought somebody would give me an opinion that I would honor and value. And so I'm holding off on going back. But there's still, one of the great blessings of living here is that the hills, right, you know, a few miles from where I live, the hills are huge, they're steep. You know, I don't walk out on the marsh close to where I live, it's too flat. You don't get any exercise walking along flat. So anyway, yeah, we go the steepest hills, and I have to stop and, you know, go, you know, and then I, you know, walk on again. So anyway, so that's that. But steeper hills. Oh, and of course, the less maintained trails are actually more useful for maintaining your balance, you know, because you've got to be careful, you've got to lift your feet up, you know, you don't see so much of the forest because you have to sort of look more what the trail is. But anyway, I do suggest that. If you really want to have a laugh, James said, I did not break my leg. What happened was a group of dogs were playing. I didn't notice, and a big dog came up and banged right against my knee, on the side of my knee. And I felt it, ooh, ah, haven't felt like that since I fell off my bike and broke my shoulder. Anyway, or fell off my horse and broke my pelvis, you know, or whatever. So I had 2 fractures in one of the bones of my knee. So I went to the, a friend took me down to emergency, you know, and they looked at night down there in Eureka. And first they were going to do an operation, and the guy said, would you rather go to Sacramento or San Francisco? Well, I don't know anybody in Sacramento, so I said San Francisco. So, but then they decided, no, we think that 2 or 3 months of no walking would be the best. Okay, so I sat in this same chair I'm sitting in now. I sat in this chair for 2 months, and except for, you know, going across to sleep, I had the bed very close to the chair, had the bed brought down, and, you know, had a porta potty. That's what I did. And it healed. And some of these nice people that I know, well, many people came by and brought food. Oh, Hop sometimes got 3 walks a day. Oh, he just, every time the bell rang, he'd go, oh, it must be for me. It must be for me. Anyway, so the kindness of my friends was frankly, I don't want to say overwhelming. I'm trying to think of the right word. Validating. It was very validating. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's because of the many gifts you've provided to everyone through your through your leadership in walking the whole group, of which there are what, 80?
Yeah.
Something like 80 that you've been leading this for decades, and you take wonderful pictures.
Yeah.
And you send those pictures out, so we all get the gift of the pictures on the walk, even though we don't get to walk ourselves necessarily.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
learn.
And I'll share something with you. The care was fine down there, you know, and then the aftercare, and then I went to Pont, you know, and I had 12 sessions. That's 3 times. I think it was 6 weeks, twice a week, and you know they work your knee and stuff, and I was happy with that. So then the last visit that I got, you know, when they sign you off and say, okay, you know, you're all right, I actually saw, you know, the real doctor guy, whatever they call him, the real specialist. Well, he came in for about, I'd say 30 seconds, but maybe it was 2 minutes. And he sort of, you know, flipped over the paperwork, but he obviously hadn't read it. And he must have looked at my age, because he said, maybe you should walk with a cane. I didn't say anything, you know. And I thought, what? I'm a hiker. I don't even use poles and sticks when I hike, you know. Anyway, so I'm just telling you that that's an example of, because how would I put it? Our medical people, especially the ones at the higher level, you know, we're so thin with them. You see, the people I saw were wonderful. The treatment was great. I don't have any problem with it. Okay, but it's just an example of how the person at the top with the you know, real skill, they must be just so overwhelmed with the people they have to see. So I mean, you know, I thought it was somewhat amusing, and I didn't say anything to him. You know, he's got too much on his plate already. So well, after you telling you how, you know, in what good shape I am, well, I have a little problem hearing. I don't, oh, well, glasses, oh God, you know, they caught me at the DMV. I don't wear glasses. I can read the smallest type I can see, you know. I can read that little tiny type on all those places. Anyway, so the hearing though, I miss quite a bit of, you know, in a group, and because I'm pretty good loner, you know, I go, well, it doesn't really matter. I really like to speak with people one-on-one, and they say something, I say it back, and we have a discussion. But of course, you know, in other situations, I probably miss a lot. So I decided once I, you know, pale dear Ben Scurfield, you know, we got new roofs. And so, of course, my solar system all had to be taken off. And so since the panels were 20 years old, of course, Ben, yeah, we want to have new panels. There's all kinds of changes in technology in 20 years on this stuff. So anyway, so once I paid Ben off, I think a hearing aid will be my next major, you know, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it won't come out of pocket money. I did look into it a year or so ago, and but then I realized that if you want, after I did research, if you want one that's really controllable, where it just doesn't raise the sound of everything, then that's when you get into the, you know, the big bucks. And then I looked and I thought, well, yes, you can get them online. So then a more elderly, well, an elderly friend, he said to me, would you like to try my hearing aid? So, well, sure, no. So he took it off his ear. Well, of course, it didn't fit in my ear. I frankly have rather small ears, in case you didn't notice. Anyway, so it didn't fit. Well, that was when I went, oh, if I'm going to get a hearing aid, I need to go to a qualified person who's actually going to fit it and it be right, and you know, so that obviously that's where the bucks come in. So anyway, I just share that with you. All right. So in terms of food choices, okay, okay, I wrote down here, read the ingredients. Am I the only person who, if I pick up, you know, I do buy salad dressing. Well, I'm always looking for calorie to protein trade-off. That's what I basically look for. I don't buy many things that are pre-prepared. I don't buy pre-prepared stuff. Well, I buy bread from Brio, happen to like. But I know I eat from a much narrower food choice than most people. But you know, I'm 5 feet. I used to be 5'1½". I've shrunk, and I weigh 106 pounds. You know, well, you can't maintain that, you know, that slender thing if you start to eat empty calories. And eating out, I mean, yeah, probably a year and a half ago, I got a piece of pizza from the pizza from New York place. Well, yeah, it tasted great. I ate the top and stuff, but I haven't eaten another piece of pizza since. It's a terrible calorie trade-off. You know, you could do it maybe once or twice in a year. Anyway, so I just point that out to you. Well, of course, also because of the way I arrange my money, I don't really. When you go out with a friend, to eat dinner, and a glass of wine costs $8. Well, that's what I pay for a bottle of wine that I and a friend, you know, share at home. Numerous glasses. So I'd rather have friends come over and we have tea, you know, and I have tea other than English tea. You know, I drink tea from England or tea from, you know, Harney's in Connecticut. But, you know, I have other tea for people too. So anyway, talking about aging in, I got a little thing here, aging in place.
Janette, before we
Yeah.
move forward, there is a question I wanted to bring up for you. It's from Lynn Meese, and
What?
she's asking about your website. And she was wondering like what software or what platform were you using? And she says that they are wonderful.
Oh, well, I have 3 websites that I made myself that I pay GoDaddy to maintain for me. One is my name, JanetteHeartwood.com. Okay. And then there's another one from when I had a ceramic business and did rather well with that until the imports, of course, killed us, like so many other small craftspeople. That is Rothwoman Stoneware, ROTHWOMAN, Rothwoman Stoneware. You can all spell stoneware.com. I used to be the Rothwoman because I was married to Jerry Rothman. So he was Rothman and I was Rothwoman. But I told you there's too many stories. I can't go into every story of my life. But Rothwoman Stoneware. And the stuff is still collectible and on eBay quite a bit. And I have about 2 pieces left because I've given away anything that I kept. And then I have these images are beautiful. They're called Thar Desert Images. That's THAR, Desert Images. The Thar Desert is in northern India, and it's on the far west side, right next to Pakistan, Thar Desert. And there's indigenous people who still live there, and they still build in the traditional way. My friend Joyce Plath and I, she invited me and we spent 6 months in India. We both taught at Ayajan School of Architecture in Jaipur. That was pretty interesting. And so then we took this trip out to the Thar Desert. And we had a driver who drove us. And we took this family, the family from Jaipur with us, man and his wife. That was the best thing we did, because what we did was, before we got to close to where the entrance was, Sonika was her name. She walked in there on her own. Half an hour later, she comes back and she waves us and she says, okay. And that was how we got in there. And of course, I had to be really fast with my camera because, see, being an architects don't want a lot of people messing up their photos. They want photos of the buildings, you see. Well, of course, all these kids are running around after us and everything. So I would have to take, and I've done this many, many times. What you do is you point your camera over there, you see, so they think that you're going to take that, and they're all jumping up and down. But you've already made in your mind, so very quickly, you swing it around to the image of the building that, or the entrance or the window or whatever it is that you've already predetermined, and you click and you get a beautiful picture, and you didn't get a kid or a dog in it. So anyway, that's those images are, that I have images of the people working also when I would always ask them, of course, you know. Thar desert images. And I've tried desperately to get people in India to take it over, but I've been unsuccessful. So I pay every 3 years to GoDaddy. I might just have to, I probably let these things go. I don't know. No. Anyway, I recommend it.
You could possibly contact the Indian Embassy here in the US and ask them if they would be interested.
Oh, that's a good idea. I didn't think of that. I only tried the people back there. Yeah, well, see, Jane's got all these good ideas. Huh, yes. I can remember that. I don't even have to write it down.
Well, I think it's a challenge when you're trying to determine what to send where and what to do with what, to think about.
Yes.
You want to take custody of it,
Right.
and you know what you want to happen with them. If you want them to go on your digital assets, and that's what we call digital assets, and you want to bequeath them to someone who's going to appreciate them and hopefully use them. You have lots and lots of pictures from your various trail walks. And I don't know if you have a website for those, but you might.
Yes, you do. In my Janette Heartwood, there's many pictures of there's files of the different trails around here and all kinds of things. Yeah.
That's something that you might want to bequeath to the Arcata Department of Environmental Services, or to one of the environmental groups locally, because they could use them for promotion.
Yeah, that would see, that's a good idea. Yeah. There's no copyright on. It says on my website, there's no copyright on any of these. No.
Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask Janette? Yes, Lorna, would you please unmute yourself? There you go. Go for it.
I'm 70 years old. I'm married but have no children. And my husband and I have kept our finances separate, basically. We've been married about 15 years. So I've been really thinking about planning for the next step that I won't be in. And I recently ordered from Amazon a book called I'm Dead, Now What? And it's not perfect, but it's certainly a good guide to jot a lot of the things down that Janette has mentioned. And I collect art and pottery and various things. And a friend of mine were talking about this yesterday, about what to do with that stuff. Well, one solution is to give it to people you love now. And the other is to, jot it down so your heirs have a feel for what you've got. Anyway, those are just some of the thoughts I've had. I recently had to update my will and advance directive because my beloved younger brother just died unexpectedly, and he was a major heir to my estate. So, wills are great, but yet they do need to be updated. And I'm sure a lot of you have wills, but maybe it's been a few years since you looked at it. So that would be a thought I have.
That's great. A friend of mine has gone through, because she's traveled all over the world, and she's gone through and made pictures, taken pictures of all the different paintings and figurines and statues and rugs. And I mean, she has a tremendous collection. And then she's made kind of a leaf, a notebook with each one with a description. And then she's asking her she has certain ones that she is willing to particular people, but to her friends and others, she asked me the other day and showed it to me. She said, well, what would you like? It's like, oh, come on. But okay, if you insist, I'd like this. And Phyllis Hellinger, I can't remember her last name, but at the moment, before she passed, she had a house full of incredible things. And she had a big party, and she had a silent auction. And she did the same thing. She had a picture book with everything in it. And she invited her friends over, of which she had many. And people could submit bids on it. And at the end of the day, whoever had the highest bid got it. And she cleared out a good bit of her house. Meantime, she served people, her kids came and she served people lunch, and then she served dinner. And there are all kinds of ways to deal with this. But if you want to bring in your friends, that's one way to do it. Anyway, Laura, did you have another point?
Another comment that's real important is many of us use computers. Obviously, we're using one today. And I do all my banking online. Well, you count them up, you've got a lot of different passwords for different things. And I'm in the process of putting together a detailed list of those, because whoever is going to be the executor of your estate will need that for access. So that would be something to keep in mind.
Now, last Monday, Patty Stammer and why can't I remember his name? Anyway, Durham presented on your obituary, determining your legacy, your obituary, and she had ordered those same books that you got, Lorna. And she's ordered another 15. So if anybody's interested in getting one from her directly, you can go to PATTISTAMMER at yahoo.com, I think. Maybe at gmail.com, I'd have to look. But in any event, she has them. And we'll have them probably within a week, but otherwise you can just order them directly online. But she had gone through their various forms of that book, and she'd gone through and evaluated which ones she thought were best, and they're similarly titled, I'm Dead, Now What? Yes, Carol.
Pauper Press also makes this internet address and password logbook, which I've had for several years, which I use a lot. So that's also from Pauper Press. It's very handy.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anything you want to add, Janette?
Oh, absolutely. On this password thing, I can't imagine why everybody doesn't use, there are two, what do you call it? Anyway, I use applications. I use one from Canada called One Password. I think I pay $50 a year for this, okay? All I have to remember is what I choose to open the app up. And then there is every place that I go online that requires a password, and you click across there. You can show it. It actually on Darling Mac, there's a thing, well, it probably works on this one too. You can show the password bigger and it comes all across the screen. So that means, if you wanted to show it to somebody else and they weren't close. Anyway, you just click on it. You click on the thing that says open and fill. It goes over to the internet, opens up you know, whatever it is, Bank of America, Vanguard, or someplace, opens and fills with your password. And you have a different password for every site that you have on file. And if you have if you use one password, a password more than once, ooh, it's got a nasty little message up there that says, you've used this password more than once. And, you know, then of course, if you change it, so it, you know, then it takes that away. So I just can't imagine, I don't know how anybody would exist without using something like this. I just can't imagine it.
Yeah, I have misplaced my password for Nextdoor and they won't let me reset it, which means I can't get into Nextdoor. And it's like, hey, come on, your reset isn't working.
Yeah.
My low-tech solution is a Rolodex in pencil.
Oh, Rolodex, I threw
Hey.
that away 20 years ago. But I will tell you, I will share with you, even, see this little guy here? No.
And that's your day timer.
My day timer. I may be techie, but man, I got that in the other pocket. Well,
it does work. Does work.
Look at Monday. I mean, there's my day timer for Monday. You know, see, I clicked off things I've done. Something here. Oh, a bit on Mary's roof. See, something that I had to do for my neighbor. You know, something I haven't done. You see, I click around it. Here's something at 4 o'clock. You know, so I frankly, even this is expensive. These things are $60 a year for a little box with 12 of them in it, so $5 each, you know. But I found if I go somewhere and somebody's scrambling to find something, I can find it in a heartbeat. So anyway, day timer, I absolutely recommend that.
And I think, Karen, you had a question?
Actually, it's a comment. Several times I've been able to go into the list of passwords that's on my computer. And it can either show me just the place that has a password, or you click over here and it'll show you what your passwords are. And there have been times when, you know, it will say, do you want to save the password, you know, to Google? And there are times when I have said no, but it sort of automatically does it. And it was doing it before I found this.
Yeah, you can not have them store it.
Yes.
Have that option usually. Yeah.
So that might help anybody who's getting started trying to keep track of those things.
Janette, do you have any further thoughts you want to share?
Well, oh yes, I'll tell you a little story. So I was in Pearson's, you know, down at park. I was just parked my car and got out, and there was a nice big fancy Mercedes in front of me, and a guy brought his cart up. Oh, and then it filled with stuff, and oh God, he couldn't find his key. So he says to me, this young guy, he said to me, I must have left my key on the counter. Would you look after my stuff? Well, I said, sure, I got plenty of time. So then I said, do you want to know where I keep my key? And I looked, and I pulled it out of my neck. I always keep the key to my car on my neck. I hang it by the front door, and if I'm going out in the car, I put it on. I never take it off until I get home.
That's a good idea.
I don't understand why everybody doesn't do that. It's like so obvious to me. But anyway, so he laughed and I laughed, and it was, you know.
And he obviously found his key.
Yeah, yes, he found his key and came back and thanked me, and I went, have a good day. Yeah. So, yeah.
And Mary, do you have a question? You put your hand up. Mary Mahoney? Are you just scratching? Hi. Are you waving or do you want to talk?
She's on the
Okay.
phone.
Oh, she's on the phone. Okay.
All right. We'll
So
figure
that's
it
not
out.
an issue.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we good? Is everybody good? Okay. Then
Thank you, Janette.
Janette, thank you so very much. We really appreciate your sharing all these interesting thoughts with us, and we all have to think about these sorts of things sooner or later, and probably sooner, given we're in a pandemic. And
Yeah.
I want to invite you all to next week, the one that we were originally going to have this week, which is the theory and practice of Sergonomics with Sarah Arrigo, who's an occupational therapist. And she has a very interesting practice. She's been working with, she's going to be doing 2 courses in the summer session, and one's on juggling, but her write-up is basically, can repurposing everyday objects aid us in maintaining our flexibility and agility and also fight the pandemic and maybe just help save the earth? How can we use the wisdom of our inner child and have fun, as in activities like kinetic, sculpturing, juggling, theater, to create harmony between our bodies and environment? And she's going to talk about Sergonomics occupational therapy and demo it. The reason she had to change this week, and Janette was so kind to swap with her at a last minute, bless her heart, is that she hurt her hand, so she couldn't demo some of the things she wanted to demo next week. You can't juggle if your fingers got a problem. So she may still be somewhat limited, but she's a very interesting young woman. I asked her, she's 34. I said, oh, she used to be a circus performer. I thought that was fascinating. So it should be very interesting next week, just as it was this week. And Janette, thank you for being willing to swap out at the very last minute when that happened. And Kim for being willing to send out the invites and change everything around. Everybody was pretty flexible. So I thank you all for coming today, and we'll see you hopefully next week. And you'll learn some new tricks.
Yeah.
Bye now. Thanks, Janette.
All right. Take care, everybody.